Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the Darkest Timeline podcast. We'll be talking something from the week. We'll be talking games, movies, TV, and anything else that comes up, really, that's been in and around the last week. Certainly the week when this was recorded. While I've got you, before we get started, I will ask you to please consider subscribing wherever you get your podcasts. And I'll take this opportunity to let you know that you can now get the podcast on Spotify. So isn't that funky? Wherever you get your podcast, please do consider subscribing. It means a lot to us. Right, here we go. Let's get started. This is CookieCast, the Darkest Timeline podcast. Hello. How you doing? You alright? Having a good week? I like to check in, see how people are doing, see how the weeks are going. Feels like, I'll try and get this across as simply as I can. It feels like 1 minute to 10. And it feels like I'm about to drink a cup of coffee. And no, it's not 10 a.m. Personally, I can't believe that it's only a week since I last sat down to talk to you guys. It's been a bit of a busy old time, a lot going on. So, let's dive in. Went to a funeral last Thursday. As anybody knows from listening recently, I lost a family member for privacy purposes. I'm not elaborating any more than that. And when you lose somebody, there is a funeral. The funeral was in the afternoon, so I had various things that needed to be done during the day, basically, to get ready to be able to go to the funeral. One of the things in question was that I needed to make sure that the dog was tired, fed and tired, and able to sleep whilst there was nobody here. So that was that. Took him out to a field for a good old run around. And as I'm out driving, I started pondering whether I was going to be able to get through the day without having to deal with certain types of people, shall we say. And, was there going to be a situation where I'd end up losing my proverbial shit because of people, of particular types of people? Obviously, my answer came very quickly. I didn't even manage to get through the time out with the dog without having to deal with somebody who decided to be hugely unnecessary in the way they went about things. I took great pleasure in highlighting how unnecessary their actions were. And I got home and I was saying to Leanne, I was like, why Why do people feel the need to be a certain way, and why do I have to deal with them on days like today? I expected to have to deal with, people, when you're out. Often when you're out driving, that's when the worst sides of people come out. So I expected that, but yeah, you just can't get through certain situations where you need people to just be better for just one day. But no, not possible. Which is interesting, because I had an incident yesterday where I dealing with somebody that I couldn't speak highly enough about this person. This person was incredibly patient, sat and waited with their dog whilst my lunatic of a dog just went batshit crazy trying to speak to their dog, and this person just sat, waited patiently, allowed my dog to interact with their dog, although it seemed to be a little bit difficult for their dog, and apparently their dog has had issues in the past, has been attacked. But I was very appreciative. I was very thankful. Told them so. But yeah, it made me wonder why on particular days you have to deal with particular people. It's always that thing sort of sprang to mind when people say you should always try and be nice to people because you don't know what they're going through at that particular point in time. And I was going through something at that particular point in time, and somebody decided to not be very nice to me. Completely unnecessary. Absolutely no reason. And like I say, it was of great pleasure to me to be able to highlight just how ridiculous they were being. So, swings and roundabouts, in it. Yes, there was a funeral. I find it hard to say. Oh, it was a nice funeral, because that kind of goes against funerals, because it's a very sad time. However, I've had this conversation with people over the last last week or so, saying, although it was a very sad time, it was actually a nice service. The people that did the service, from what I saw and from what I've been informed, were amazing. Just really caring, and although you only spend so much time with these people, they managed to highlight how amazing this family member was, and it was really nice in a lot of ways. So that was that. That was saying goodbye to a family member. Incredibly difficult, but needed to be done, unfortunately. So I took some time away from work. Obviously needed time for the funeral, and as it was an afternoon service, certainly didn't feel like I needed to be working the next day. So myself and Leanne took some time to do some jobs, a couple of things to prepare for an upcoming birthday. And I said that I would take her for something to eat. So we went to a restaurant that Leanne's been wanting to try recently, and I upset things straight away by informing her that I wasn't going to be eating anything, so that didn't go down well. And it was one of those things. Just before we left to go there, I was like, "Oh, can you just Google the postcode so I can put it in the sat nav?" In the process of Googling the postcode, Leanne starts reading like some of the reviews that had been left for this restaurant recently. They were like 1-star reviews, and I was like, "Oh, it's just people being people, innit?" It's a place I've been to before. It's a place I've been to many times. It's gone through many different incarnations. But what was interesting was when I got there and like the guy that I always know to have owned the place was still the guy who owned the place. It's like, oh, okay. So even though it's gone through like multiple different names, multiple different incarnations, same owners. So. But it's one of those things, and I don't want to be that guy, but bad reviews, poor reviews, one is a one-off, just one person that you weren't able to please. Multiple, well, that's a different story. They've got to come from somewhere. There's no smoke without fire, as they say. So as far as I know, as far as I could tell, Leanne had very much enjoyed her meal. But service wasn't amazing. I got bottomless coffee, so get lots of lovely refills on the coffee, of which I had 2 because nobody came to ask me if I wanted more, and nobody was around to be able to ask to get a refill. It was only when they came to collect the plate that I was like, "Can I get some more coffee, please?" I ordered a milkshake rather than ordering a meal. Was asked if I wanted the milkshake to come out at the same time as the food. I said yes. They brought the food, and they're like, "Oh, your milkshake will be along in a bit." Cool. That's I'll just sit here and wait then, shall I? Things like the person who was serving us went and sat at a different table so far through us being there, and apparently to have their lunch. I'm just going to go sit over here and have a burger and chips. It's like, okay, that's good. Who's serving us right now? I understand you've got to you got to eat, and you got to take opportunity where you can in certain situations. But the place is dead. It's just us here. I can't imagine that you're going to be rushed off your feet after we leave. Could you not finish serving us and then go and have it? Was it was not great service, which was a shame. My bottomless coffee turned up, and it looked like they'd taken the cup out of the garden, because it was not the cleanest, which global pandemic and putting something in my mouth equals probably want to be a little bit cleaner than that sort of thing. Now admittedly, like I say, it was the same guy that owned the place that was there, and he seemed to take over serving past a certain point of us sitting wondering if anybody was ever going to come and see us. And once he did, he seemed to be able to pick up the pace with the serving and stuff. But I just felt like it's not like it wasn't like the restaurant was round the corner. It wasn't like the restaurant was down the road. We had to travel to the restaurant, and not like, oh, well, let's nip into town and get something to eat. This was out in out there. It was just super unfortunate, because for a few little things, it could have made a big difference. I can't see us going again anytime soon, because one of the other issues was to do with the price. It's probably in the region of overly priced for what it is. So there you go. Lives and learns. I've been dealing with something recently. Not dealing with something recently like I usually talk about. I've been dealing with something recently where I think I've opened Pandora's box where the podcast is concerned. I don't know how and I don't know why, but at some point in time, we were contacted by somebody who was like, "Hey, why don't you have your podcast on our like website or app or whatever? And if you do and you hit certain numbers, then we'll give you money." It's like, well, everybody loves money, don't they? So I was like, yeah, that sounds interesting. And I did plenty of research and plenty of sort of like, it does sound interesting, and I think we can hit the monetary marker. And obviously they when they're trying to get you to sign up with them, they promise you the sun. So I signed up with the first, technically not the first, but the more recent one that's come along. Signed up with them. I was like, yeah, go on then, why not? They'd done a lot of legwork. They're like, hey, look, this is what it'll look like, and we've made a page for you, and you can have all these tools and all this. And I was like, fantastic. And then, obviously, since then, nothing that was promised or offered or any of that came to fruition. But what's obviously happened now is every man and his freaking dog is like, why don't you put your podcast on here? We've had somebody who wants us to move the podcast from SoundCloud over to their audio platform. We've had service that wants us to sign up to do like paid interviews. There's been a service that wants us to sign up so that they can handle all of the social media side of things. We've had a service, we had two services that want to pay for interviews. All of they're all quote unquote free, which obviously they're not, because they earn money off the back of your podcast and you see next to nothing from them. So nothing in this life is free, but obviously you're giving away a lot. And now it's another aspect of the podcast world that I've become super jaded about, because it's like, we'll give you anything, we'll give you everything, we'll pay you, we'll give you money, we'll pay you to move your service to us. The moment you do, obviously, we'll pull away all the support that we said we were going to give you, and you won't hear from us unless, and here's the best one so far, you won't hear from us unless we're going to promote somebody else's podcast to you. Is that cool? If I'm honest, it's been quite annoying, because at one point in time it was quite frequent. At one point in time, there was a lot of chasers for stuff. At one point in time, people were like, "Oh my god, your podcast is amazing. You're obviously very dedicated to it. You've had over 500 episodes. We want you on our network." It's like, okay, well, you've obviously done your research and stuff. Then when you look into it, it's like, all right, you want us to be on your network, on your web, your whatever, because you want to make money off the back of it. As I've said previously, this is a step up from all the places that host the podcast that have never asked us if that's okay. I've never asked if it's possible. I've never given us a single penny for any money that they might have made off the back of it. Big thumbs up there, because there's shed loads of them. Absolutely shed loads. If you want to find out, just Google the podcast and see how many websites there are that are saying that they have the podcast. I tell you right here and now, if it's not iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, then they don't have permission to have the podcast. What I can tell you is this. Recently put a post out informing anybody who is who's on Spotify. You can now get the podcast on Spotify, which has been a bit of an interesting journey. So if the website in question is Spotify, they also have the podcast and have been given permission for it. But yeah, anybody else, of the many you'll find, not a single one of them ever asked us for permission to host the podcast. My youngest daughter's birthday. So we went to a birthday party. We had a birthday party. We held a birthday party. Went to one of these places where you just basically pay them and they do all the party stuff for you. At a real cross section of ages, from toddler, from a little person or little people, up to my youngest and all of her little friends. She's got this little group of friends, and then up again to my next daughter, and she's got a little friend, and then up again to my eldest. She was allowed to invite a friend. She was asked if she wanted to invite a friend, and she did, and a friend came. And then there was all of the adults, parents, people like that, grandparents. It was one of those things, I'm not going to lie, didn't know what to expect. It wouldn't have been my go-to place for a party, because I've never been to a party there, and I've never heard of anybody having a party there, which to me said enough. Like, word of mouth is quite a big thing. So when nobody's like, oh, I went here for a party and it was great, like literally nobody, it's like, well, I didn't know they did parties. I've been here once before. You know, it's that sort of thing. As it was, everybody enjoyed it. They all loved it. It was good from what I saw. I generally don't. It's one of these things that I often think about it. I don't do the soft play. I don't do the ball pit. I don't do the slides and the climbing up and over things like that. For a few reasons. One, I'm just too big. Two, I would get very sweaty. And three, I don't want the fire department to have to cut the side off a play area to get a man who shouldn't be in there out, because A, either he's got stuck, or B, he's had a heart attack in the middle of the place. So I just tend to avoid them, like actually going on them. I'm the guy that's wandering around the outside trying to make sure that nobody's died in some kind of freak slide accident. But it was, from what I could tell, from what I could see, from all reports, it was a jolly good outing. One of those, we had it a couple of days before her actual birthday. I get a bit weird about stuff like that. When people are singing happy birthday, and I'm like, it's not a birthday. And she's getting loads of presents and birthday cake and all this. It's like, it's not her actual birthday. But you gotta go with the weekend that's closest, don't you? So how's that? Thoroughly enjoyable time. So that was during the day. The evening had boxing match of the century of the whatever. Hathor Bjornsson, the Mountain from Game of Thrones, World's Strongest Man 2018, going up against Eddie Hall, World's Strongest Man 2017. There was beef, all because Eddie Hall felt disrespected by Thor, and this accumulated into, we're going to have a boxing match. There was talk of a lot of money involved. I think they were getting paid $1 million each. So I've been following this all the way along from 2017 until now. The fight's been 2 years in the making. It should have happened a year ago, and it didn't. And it got to the weekend. It's like, right, let's do this. It was going to be free on Seggy TV. What an absolute shit show that was. In situations where companies are supposed to be delivering a service that they don't, I immediately jump onto Twitter. Now, I'm not a huge fan of Twitter, but I do use it for certain situations. One of them is to watch a company get absolutely blazed by the public because it's hilarious, and this did not disappoint. It was fantastic. People were just brutal. One of my favourites was, obviously it was free. It was a free stream. Somebody said that they were going to ask for a refund from their electric company for the time that they'd been waiting to try and get on towards the fight. It was just absolutely fantastic. In the end, I had to abandon the Seggy TV and ended up watching it through. Somebody was streaming it on YouTube through their YouTube channel. Ironically, it seemed like they were getting it through Seggy TV though, so no idea how they've managed that. I imagine anybody who's interested know by now that Thor won unanimously. Not going to lie, in a lot of ways it was an anticlimax, because nothing like that's ever going to live up, I suppose, but it was just very strange. The one thing throughout the whole process I just kept saying was, I bet you this, no matter what's been said up to this point, no matter what happens, no matter what goes on in that ring, I bet you dollars to donuts they end up hugging at the end of it. Fight finishes. It was like they were long-time lovers that haven't seen each other in years. They were hugging. At one point I was like, are they going to kiss? It was like, oh yeah, we hate each other, but let's have a big hug because, we respect each other now. Yeah. I just get very, very cynical when there's a lot of money involved. Obviously, immediately there was talk of a rematch. Even though beforehand, it definitely won't be a rematch. Yeah, you've just told us that there's a rematch clause in your contracts. Definitely won't be a rematch. Fight finishes immediately. I'll have a rematch if he wants one. Yeah, of course you will, because of all the money. just from start to finish, it was just a bit of a letdown, really. Some aspects of it were good, but the majority of it wasn't. So, just a bit of a shame, really. Been spending a bit of time with my middle daughter. Obviously, I spend a fair amount of time with my youngest, and I spend for what I'm able to. I spend more time with my eldest purely because she's older and doesn't need to go to bed at 7 o'clock at night. So we have what we would refer to as our time together. But I've always been a big believer that you should have, separate individual time with each of your children, because all your children are different and they need different things. So my middle daughter has been getting in on the dog walking action, and we talk a lot. We spend that time conversing. We're talking about how we used to spend a lot of time together, just me and her on a Saturday, because my eldest used to go dancing on a Saturday. So my middle daughter would go and get a drink, something to eat and stuff. But that doesn't happen anymore. So there's been obviously we spend time together as a family. We do stuff like that, but it's been interesting spending time, or that bit more time, just one-on-one time, with my middle daughter. But in turn has highlighted the importance of spending time with your children individually. And like I say, I've always been a big believer in it. But, you know what they say, life gets in the way. Sometimes you can't do as much as you would want to. You can't spend as much time as you would want to. But it's sort of reinvigorated my want and need to spend individual time. And like I say, with my youngest, a lot of that's taken care of. We have a full day every week where it's just me and her. Often on weekends and stuff, there's often times when it's just me and her. So yes, it's been a very interesting time. Highlighting the differences between all of them. So what I was saying before was my youngest birthday. It's Tropical World over at Roundhay Park. I do like it there. It's very much you're in, you're out. It does exactly what it needs to do. It's cheap and cheerful. It's not that far away. A good time's had by all. I'm sure I've probably talked about Tropical World many times on the podcast because we have been a few. It's good. One thing that I keep talking about today has been about the fact that they've taken my favourite exhibit away, which I'm like, oh man, they took the bats away. They took them away during the pandemic and never brought them back, which has been sad for me. I like the bats. Bats are cool. So there, like I said, it's been a jam-packed old week. I've even managed to fit in other things. Bit wheezy. I've watched 3 episodes of Dope Sick. Heading towards the end of the series now. We've only got 2 episodes left. I've watched episode 4, 5 and 6. The way I was describing Dope Sick this evening, to someone who I was saying, I know it's good. I know it's really good. I really, it's gripping. But it's also super uncomfortable to watch. It's really difficult to watch. It's a hard watch. Michael Keaton's character took a turn quite early on, and it's a turn that I didn't like, and he's just generally got worse throughout. I don't mean like worse as a just like his character arc, his path as a character. It's awful. I feel for him, even though I also feel that it's like, what are you doing kind of thing. It's a subject that I'm not a huge fan of. Obviously, we talked about the film Prescription Thugs and the fact that I don't really, obviously I don't like prescription drugs. Personally, try to shy away from them wherever I can. I try shy away from a lot of medication. So, yeah, it's a subject that makes my blood boil anyway. And then you've got these characters, and some of these characters are not making the right decision. Other characters are making awful decisions. You've got people dying left, right, and centre. You've got addiction. You've got addiction that turns into other addiction. You've got these awful people that are making these drugs and selling these drugs. It's a tough watch. It's really hard to watch. But like I say, 2 episodes left. Should get through one of those tomorrow evening, and then one later in the week, I imagine. So I'll be able to give you a series roundup by next week, I would have thought. As a family, we sat down to watch a movie. It's been a movie that's been out a couple of weeks, but wanted to make sure we could all sit down and watch it together. It's like a family premiere. It's the new Disney Pixar movie, Turning Red. Story of a girl who turned into a red panda. It has been categorically ripped off the 1980s anime Ranma half, but obviously nobody remembers the 1980s anime Ranma half, so that means it's okay to directly rip it off. Having said that, I'd seen some reviews recently that were talking about some parents not being overly happy with the subject matter. Because what I thought they were saying was like the whole thing was a metaphor for puberty, and I was like, oh god, really? And they're like, oh, why can't Disney make classic movies like they used to? So then somebody's obviously put together all of the stuff that Disney used to make, with like, The Lion King and Mulan, and all of these subject matters that are quite horrific. So I was like, I think people are just overreacting. I put the film on, we started watching it, we got so far, and I turned to Leanne and I was like, don't want to be that guy, but I can kind of see what people have been saying. I have 3 daughters. I am fully aware that at some point in time I am going to have to deal with 3 girls going through puberty. I get that. I am aware of this. This is a subject matter that I will have to deal with. However, for one of my daughters, that could be 2, 3, 4 years. For one of my daughters, it could be anywhere up to sort of 8 years. For one of my other daughter, it could be 10 years. We don't know. What I do know is that having certain subject matters in films that those children have no concept about is a bit strange. I wonder if there was a different way to go about certain things that are in the beginning of this film. I wonder if there's, Disney have always been very good at doing here's a joke that the adults will get, but the children, it'll go straight sailing over their heads. I'm not saying that we need to make a joke of certain things. I'm saying we need to think about the, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-year-olds that want to sit down and watch the film with the red panda in. Maybe those children don't want to sit through a section of a film that they just don't understand what's going on. And, I understand children's levels of understanding are higher or lower or whatever than what anybody thinks. But I think there was a different way we could have gone about doing it. And if we were going to do things a certain way, maybe it's not a film for everybody. Maybe it needs a different rating. Maybe it's an animated movie that we bump up the age rating on. And I'm annoyed with myself because I didn't want to be one of the people who was like, oh, actually, I agree with what you've said there. Because I thought that all of these parents were overreacting. And then I've watched it and gone, I don't think that's the case. I think the case is that I think something's been done that might have been unnecessary. Other than that, it was a very good film. It was very enjoyable. Ticked a lot of boxes, a lot about friendship, a lot about being, you wanted to do a film about being a teenage girl and going through school and going through life and going through the expectations of your parents and going through all of that sort of stuff. I'm with you. I'm there. Let's do this. I don't know who I'm annoyed at more. And I wonder if it might be me. I don't know. It was a good film. I wonder if some of it was unnecessary. I think that's my review. Maybe. We'll see. Unfortunately, games are a bit of a touchy subject at the moment. I've not been playing a lot. I think that's because I haven't really got anything new to play. My PlayStation Plus ran out at a point in time that I was absolutely just about to play some PlayStation Plus games. And I haven't been able to really settle on anything that I've wanted to play or replay or anything like that. I tried a few things, as we know. Unfortunately, I've ended up playing Ghost Recon Wildlands, which anybody who's listened to this before has never heard me talk about. I got a free game, which I played a little bit of. Free is free. It didn't even require PlayStation Plus. It was free no matter what. And it was this little Bleach game, Bleach the anime. I'd seen something that was like, it was originally a mobile game, and then it made its way to the PC, and then it made its way to the PlayStation, and it was free. So I was like, free's free. Downloaded it. I even had a little go on it. It was kind of fun, but then I remembered that I did have it on the iPad at one point. And unfortunately, a game like that works fine when you're playing it on an iPad. Because you're limited. You've got limitations when you're playing on like a tablet or something. When you're playing on a PlayStation, it's like, this isn't really the game for this platform. I don't really know what we're doing here, kind of thing. So it was a little bit like that. So yeah, I'm thinking that I might buy a game, maybe this week. We shall see about that. And then obviously if I do, then at least we've got something to talk about games wise. That's about it. That's about the week. It's been a bit of a whirlwind podcast. Had its ups, had its downs. I'm sure you'll agree. But that's it for this one. I'll catch you next time. So there you go. What do you think of that? Another one done. Another week gone. Can you believe it? Please do consider subscribing. It means a lot to us. And you can also check out our website, thecookiecast.com. It's got social media links, email button, everything that you could possibly need to get in touch with us. Let us know how much of a good time you're having and what you're up to these days. Hey, who knows, we might even read it out on the podcast. That's it for this one. Till next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.